Hello, and welcome to the 50 Chumasero Memorial Garden, where fantasy and tranquility meet. I'm your host, Dan Vosher. Although life is relatively peaceful at Parkmerced, away from the hum of San Francisco, residents here still feel the need to find a place to unwind, reflect, take in nature's wonders, and maybe dream of a little magic. Such a place is the 50 Chumasero Memorial Garden, and while dedicated to all those who have lived and loved at 50 Chumasero, all residents have come to know it as a community sanctuary. So how does this sanctuary come about? Years ago, my first foray into gardening was so small it had to be considered micro-gardening, a 10-foot space shadowed by an enormous bush and a deck. The space was secret, however, accessible only by ducking under the branches of a bush. And since the space was shaded, incredibly so, I planted vegetation that thrived in shade, plants like coral bells, lamium, and ornamental kale. Such a place like this had to have a secret, so it developed into a Faerie Portal. But more about that later. Every garden and gardener needs inspiration. When I first started gardening at Parkmerced, I tended a small 4x4-foot plot in the community garden. What to do with just 16 square feet was, to me, rather difficult since I didn't want to plant just one flower or vegetable or herb. That's when I thought about the small replica of the Elizabethan herb knot garden at Filoli, made with real herbs. The little plot had quite an evolution, as you can see, and the nearby Montessori school children learned to identify the flowers and herbs with a key I posted at the top. I also experimented with acrylic rock for stained glass effect. Nearby 12th floor tower residents enjoyed it, with one saying, "Hell, you can see it from space." As to inspiration for the memorial garden, why, I received it from one of my tower neighbors. Picture, if you will, an elderly lady carrying a heavy hose crossing the vast lawn in back of the tower to water the enormous daisy bushes and expansive geraniums. I found out later that she had been tending that spot for almost 20 years. I looked at a patch of dry earth near my window. If she can do it, why can't I? Again, I wanted something different, something that would stand out. So I pictured an enormous red heart. Then things really took hold. The evolution of today's garden took approximately 4 years. Of course, the evolution had help. Some neighbors donated items like this bird bath, the air plants hanging from the birdhouse, and plants that needed care or just placed inside. Others made inspirational comments. "It's not just a magical garden, it's a sanctuary," said one. When one frequent visitor saw the birdhouse and its surrounding area, she said, "It looks like the Hobbit." So additional dead limbs and branches were hauled up from the ravine, continuing that theme to the back of the garden. One of the most distinctive features of the garden is the official San Francisco Faerie Portal. Children delight in discovering it and asking questions about fairies and how it all started. When I was living in another part of the city, I tell them, I was approached by Oberon, king of the fairies himself. And being a king, he demanded that I create a portal for the fairies in a secluded place underneath my back deck. He was delighted with the results and declared them properly magical, but very upset when I had to move to Parkmerced. So after a while, I was approached again. His proclamation hangs above the entrance to the blackberry bramble thicket, where the fairies are forbidden to go because of the evil creatures residing there. The thicket lies between the hummingbird haven, so called because the feeder is hung above flowers that attract them, An echium house, the birdhouse made entirely out of the echium branches in which it resides. Speaking of echium, it's called Pride of Madeira, and practically indigenous to the West Coast. It's drought resistant, and its blue cones composed of thousands of tiny flowers attract hummingbirds, butterflies, and bumblebees. Probably the most ecologically sound plant at Parkmerced. It can be easily propagated and grow at a fast rate. This bush, for example, is only 18 months old. Another welcome plant is ice plant. It grows profusely along Brotherhood Way. It too is drought resistant, with raw cuttings easily adaptable to just soil and water. This bed will be a carpet of bright pink flowers. Another distinctive feature of the garden is music. Calm, soothing music ranging from opera to Mozart brings about its feeling of tranquility. Coupled with the meditation station, it helps give the garden a true sanctuary feeling. These views can be had to the strains of a little night music coming from the Pirates of the Caribbean treasure chest underneath the trellis. Music can also be played for special occasions, like Valentine's Day, of course, and Easter. Occasionally the garden joins in with the help of a little video creativity. These next clips are from Mother's Day, Mamma Mia, Gay Pride, Glitter and Be Gay, and of course Christmas, Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies. Although the size of the garden is relatively small, the variety of flowers and plants can make it seem much larger. There have been approximately 45 different kinds of plants and herbs in the garden. Flowers like dianthus, lantana, lithodorum, Shasta daisy, sedum, and scented geranium. Herbs like rosemary, thyme, and oregano, and even decorative weeds. Yes, weeds. By the way, for Parkmerced residents, these and many more have been easily obtained through nearby nurseries. Of course, planting and maintaining a garden such as this one can sometimes be challenging. 50 Chumasero is the only tower dealing with the problems brought on by the construction of the Brotherhood Way development, Summit 800. While the garden and surrounding vegetation didn't suffer from allergies or sinus problems, it did suffer from an influx of coyotes, raccoons, and gophers. Surprisingly, coyotes and raccoons are very, very respectful of the garden. Not so gophers. Although I tried to tell the little critters that we weren't filming a sequel to Caddyshack, they didn't listen. Part of the planting process has therefore involved wire mesh or hardware cloth underneath. Approximately 85% of all plants and flowers in the garden have their roots encased in this material, and even the heart sits atop hardware cloth to prevent these very little destructive agents from popping up in its center. So what's ahead for this special place in Parkmerced? Of course, it's getting ready for spring and Easter, but even with planting for spring underway, this garden is looking much further into the future. Parkmerced's plans proved that the community's residents are encouraged to think outside the box, and I like to think of this garden as doing just that. In fact, it can be a small starting point for Parkmerced's future development. Here, the numerous community gardens can learn about soil, area weather conditions, easy-to-grow plants and herbs, use of different materials, and creativity in small spaces. Even the apartments can benefit by learning about plants, indoor and outdoor. For example, this vertical garden is designed for both children and adults and is totally interactive. Today's tower residents can repurpose soon-to-be demolished townhouse vegetation. When they bloom, these crocosmias, or daylilies for example, won't be enjoyed by anyone unless they view them through the back window of a garage. As a teaching tool for the future, especially children, the garden's workspace will eventually become a teaching space. In keeping with the fantasy theme, I'd like to call it the whimsical classroom. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this exploration into Parkmerced's 50 Chumasero Memorial Garden. I'm Dan Voscher, and I hope to see you soon using the garden as a space of fantasy and tranquility.